If your blood runs orange and blue, this is the pod for you. You're listening to Orange and Blue Bloods, hosted by EJ Stewart and Tommy Beer. Let's get to it, New York.
So let's get to it. So the Knicks dismantled the Hawks in Atlanta Wednesday night, 122-101, heading into the All-Star break on a really high note. The Knicks led by as much as 16 points in this. They led by 16 after the first quarter. They led by as much as 24 in this game. Jalen Brunson, another masterclass. He had 29 points, shooting 10 for 19, absolutely barbecuing the Hawks star backcourt of Dejounte Murray, who had most of the assignment on him in that game, and Trae Young. Both guys had subpar performances. Julius Randle had 25 points and 11 boards in this one. RJ Barrett had 17 points in this game. And the Knicks had another awesome contribution from their bench. You had Josh Hart, Obi Toppin, and Emmanuel Quickley all putting up double figures in points in this one. Every guy in the Knicks had a plus in this one, which is rare to see in the NBA, but that's how dominant the Knicks were. Everybody contributed. The Knicks held Atlanta to just 5 made threes in the entire game. 19% from behind the arc shooting from three. So you talk about the Knicks 3-point defense, something that we talked about a lot throughout this season. They did the job on Wednesday night. So I'll ask it. We're started right here, Tommy, with why did the Knicks handle Atlanta so easily in this one? Because it was a thorough domination pretty much for the entire game.
To borrow a phrase from Mr. Jalen Brunson, the vibes are immaculate in New York right now. And we'll zoom out and take a 3,000-foot view of the kind of the big picture of the Knicks heading into the All-Star break, and a lot of good vibes. But focusing on last night, I still think we start with Mr. Brunson, as we have, as we should with nearly with most victories, especially of late. RJ Barrett outscored the DeJounte Murray, Trae Young backcourt by himself last night.
Oh, you talking about it was Brunson who did that.
Jalen Brunson outscored the Trae Young, DeJounte Murray backcourt by himself last night. He had 28 points on 19 field goal attempts. That is Brunson, while as Murray and Trae Young had 25 points on 26 attempts. Set the pace early. Got a couple good looks early on. We know Julius Randle came out hot, set the tone, and the Knicks never really looked back. We saw the bench come in and do what they do. Just really encouraging sign. I looked at the numbers this morning. In the 3 games since Josh Hart's arrival. So the 3 games the Knicks' previous 3 games, obviously they're 3-0 now. The Knicks bench unit ranks first in the NBA in offensive rating. They lead the NBA net rating. They're outscoring their opponents by 12.6 points per 100 possessions. So when you have a great starter in Julius Randle, a great bench combination, IQ continues to play well, flies under the radar, but just does everything, just a superstar and what the Knicks ask him to do, excelling in his role. Isaiah Hartenstein continues to be a monster on the glass, had 11 more rebounds last night. And then you get that extra. Obi Toppin chipped in with 3 3-pointers last night. That was good to see. And then you get that extra to kind of put it over the top, that physicality, that aggressiveness, and that all-around versatility that Josh Hart brings to the table. Knocked down 3 more 3-pointers. Some assists, some steals, playing passing lanes, just, kind of doing those Josh Hart things. And then again in the third quarter, when things got a little tight, got within 11, I think, at one point in the third quarter, and the Knicks are having trouble offensively. Julius Randle bullies down low, 2 offensive rebounds, 2 putbacks. Just the physicality that he imprints on the game night to night, night in, night out. He's played every game for the Knicks. Hasn't worn down, continues to be a beast. Just really encouraging. And then, the cherry on top, the kind of the straw that stirs the drink is Jalen Brunson. We've said it time and time again. Over his last, 25 plus points in 9 of his last 10 games. Over his last 20 games, Brunson's averaging 30 points, 5.6 assists, 4.3 rebounds, while shooting 51.8% from the floor, 46% from downtown. That's not a week. That's not 2 weeks. That's not a month. That's 21 games, actually, dating back to the start of January. That is a lengthy stretch of the season, nearly a quarter of the season. Brunson is the first Knick to average 30-plus points while shooting over 50% from the floor over a 20-game stretch since Patrick Ewing, prime Patrick Ewing in 1990, kind of when he was at the peak of his offensive prowess. Yeah, I mean, lots to like, lots to love. But in this game in particular, you saw a little bit of everything that has pushed the Knicks now a season high tying 6 games over 500 heading into the All-Star break.
Yeah, I just love the mentality from the Knicks from the start. I mean, they were in attack mode, and I think it's funny. Someone noted on Twitter, I forgot who it was, but it might have been a New York basketball account. But Tibbs kind of in the post game when he talked about kind of that start, he referenced R.J. Barrett several times. R.J. Barrett's jump shot right now looks broken, but I think R.J. Barrett, along with Randall, really set the tone with their physicality and their ability to just attack the rim. I mean, Barrett showed initially that he was gonna just by hook or crook, whether it went good or poorly, he was going to be aggressive that night. And I think even though he was still erratic at times, I think that kind of set the tone for the entire team. I think Tibbs was on point with that because seeing him be that aggressive, I think made everybody feel, okay, we got RJ kind of back to what he was. Now everybody else gets more comfortable. Randall hitting those threes in the first quarter. I'll tell you what, we're going to talk about him being in 3-point contest. If they find a way to come somehow like manipulate the clock at Utah to make it look like it's the first quarter, when he does his 3-point shootout, he might do really well. I know a lot of people aren't really picking him right now and don't think he's going to be there. But if they say, hey, this is the first quarter, Julius, then look, he may go out there and shoot like Klay Thompson or Steph Curry. But he came out there, buried 2 or 3 threes in the first quarter. Again, showed the physicality and aggressiveness. And what's now becoming scary about this team is now Brunson can ease into games. Because it wasn't like in that first quarter, he was coming in immediately looking for his shot. He kind of let RJ try to figure himself out. He let Randall kind of handle the show. And Brunson kind of was, he picked his spots. He had a couple of shots, but he was not trying to, impose his will. You think a guy averaging 30 points for the last 3-4 weeks would say, all right, I'm getting mine against these guys, especially, 2 competitive guards he's going against Trae Young and DeJounte Murray. And he didn't do that. It allowed himself to ease his way into the game. And then he started to take over in the second quarter. And then he started to have a big night. So the fact that the Knicks now have this kind of firepower where they can rely on several guys to provide for them, whether it be in the starting lineup, whether it be on the bench, it's really good to see. And I issued the challenge essentially yesterday. I said, put it on the line that the Knicks should handle this team. I didn't think that the Hawks really were in the Knicks class when you looked at just the rosters and the way both teams are playing. And I said, this is no reason why Knicks shouldn't beat this team. And the Knicks going out there and playing that way, playing with that kind of sense of urgency after the game. Nate McMillan said that his team just didn't have nearly the amount of effort and physicality needed to beat the Knicks that night. He said we just didn't show up and play a caliber basketball need to beat a team that's that good. And the fact that you have teams like the Hawks, who we look at as talented teams, saying that, hey, if we play anywhere below our normal effort, we're going to get blown out, which is essentially what Nate McMillan is saying. That speaks to high praise. It's just how good the Knicks are playing right now. Really awesome performance. I don't want to gloss over, like you mentioned, Hartenstein, because, again, his physicality on the glass, it is really weird because he still is kind of being used not correctly, but he really has morphed into the role that Tibbs wanted him to be. Just a dirty work glue guy, a guy who's going to attack the offensive glass, attack the defensive glass with aggression, throw his body around. I mean, that block he had on Okongwu, another underrated moment of that game, might have been the block of the season for the Knicks. I mean, Okongwu can absolutely fly, and he met him at the rim and just completely rejected his shot. Awesome play by Hartenstein. Josh Hart continues to impress, topping it quickly, also phenomenal. Just all no notes, as they would say. All good stuff from the Knicks in this one. A really, really awesome performance.
A couple things to touch on what you mentioned. Nate McMillan, we may have seen the last of this. That may have been the last game he coaches in Atlanta. I wouldn't be surprised if he doesn't come back after the break.
Yeah.
Trae Young quoted after the game, we need a break. We definitely need a break. And just it didn't look like a team that was ready to compete. It didn't look like a team that was willing to match the physicality and the aggression that the Knicks brought to the table. So on the flip side, I'm going to compliment Tibbs, his coaching counterpart. He talked about making sure the team didn't take a break before the break. They'd won a couple games, excuse me, but he was insistent that they come out with the correct physicality, the correct, mind frame, and they attacked correctly. And that's what they did, so credit to the team, credit to the coach for having them in that mind space to not, because you can, they'd won a couple games in a row. Maybe we relax. We were ready.
Yeah.
This is kind of, this is house money we're playing with in Atlanta. But as we know, every game counts, especially when you're trying to jump up into that 5-6 seed. This puts greater distance between the Knicks and the Hawks for that 8 seed. That's why you thought Atlanta would come out aggressive if they want to make a real run at the 7 seed, let alone the 5 or 6 as the Knicks, which is within the range of possibilities given their talent. This was an important game, but it just one in which they didn't have a chance. They didn't stand a chance right from the very start. Speaking on RJ, you brought up, I thought the best play from Barrett last night, and the good plays were few and far between, especially in the first half. Not only, he missed his first 6 3-pointers, he was also DeAndre Hunter had his way with him on the when RJ was on defense. That being said, third quarter, RJ catches a corner 3, catches the ball in the corner, and instead of shooting, immediately attacks the basket, ends up getting fouled, doesn't dunk it. But again, that kind of mind frame, if your 3-pointers and falling, attack the basket and impact the game positively. Because as we've seen, and now as we know, the Knicks have a lot of interchangeable parts there on the wing. Those 35 minutes a night that Barrett may have been, essentially guaranteed over the first 3 years of his career. Those aren't given minutes anymore. Those minutes are earned. We could see more Grimes, who again his shot is still struggling, but defensively just does a great job on Trae Young.
Oh, he was awesome on Trae Young.
Awesome on Trae Young, and just again any perimeter player, guard, point guard, 2 guard, having a guy like Grimes start out the game on him is a great boon for the Knicks. So yeah, there's just a ton to like from what we saw Wednesday night in Atlanta.
Yeah, I think that Barrett game was a game where you don't really have it and you got to do something for your team. And he found a way to contribute in some way by just being a Tasmanian devil, just putting his head down, going to the basket. He took those 6 threes. They were wide open. So he had to shoot a lot of them. But, I mean, his jump shot looks really bad right now. Like, I don't know what's going on with that. I know last time I challenged Drew Hanlon actually helped him out, and then he started shooting the ball well. Maybe now I'll say again, Drew Hanlon, figure something out. What the hell's going on with your boy? Because I don't know how he was shooting so well prior to the injury. Now, like there were some shots last night where some of the worst shots I've seen him take from 3
wasn't even close.
Really ugly. Really ugly.
Yeah, wasn't even close. You sometimes guys just need to step away, like we all do in any walk of life. Just a couple days away, a week away from the grind that is especially an NBA season. So he mentioned it. He said he was just kind of worn down physically, mentally. Kind of alluded to it in his post game comments. Which is clear. It's clear as day for anyone that's watching. So hopefully he gets a nice little extended rest here. Whether that's getting shots up with Drew Hanlon gym or just going to a beach somewhere and not thinking about basketball for 5 days. I'm not sure what would be more beneficial for Barrett. But for the Knicks to kind of unlock, and we'll talk about kind of as we recalibrate where the Knicks are headed this season, they need RJ Barrett to knock down those corner 3s, to knock down those open 3s. To kind of, especially when he's the lone starter with that second unit at the start of the second quarter, the start of the fourth quarter, when he's more of an offensive focal point, they need RJ Barrett to be at least a league average shooter, a scorer, and contribute on the defensive end. So we'll see kind of what RJ Barrett returns after the break.
Yeah. And I liked his drives. I mean, he made some really good left-handed drives. I mean, if you take away his 3s, he was 6 for 10 from the field. I mean, inside the 2-point arc, he was pretty good. It's, the 3-point shot was just so ugly. He's got to make those shots. And again, whether it is working with Hanlon or whether it is time off, he needs to figure out a way to get back. But the one thing I wanted to say before we move on, just about this performance, and it kind of does lead us into this next conversation. The Knicks bench now is really becoming a weapon. I mean, when you have Emmanuel Quickley now in the bench role, and what's great about Quickley now is he really is a chameleon. Like, he could do anything. You could start him at point. You could start him at the 2. You could have him play off ball off the bench. You could have him play on ball off the bench. Like, there was a time where, like, with Emmanuel Quickley, where sometimes it was like, oh, if you try to make him play point guard, like, his shot won't be there, and he'll be too focused on trying to get the team involved, or he's too busy just looking for a shot. He'll play too selfish, and maybe his defense will suffer. Like Emmanuel Quickley's gotten so much better this season. Like, I don't even think the numbers really show how much better he is than he was last season in his rookie year. I mean, he's a really good player, and him being able to say, okay, Deuce is now on the bench. Now I'm the real point guard on the floor with those bench guys. And again, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter what the role is. He's still going to produce. He's still going to give you A+ defense. With him, Toppin looking like he's getting his shot back now too. And then Josh Hart, again, phenomenal. His attacks to the basket always seem great. That bounce pass that he threw to Hartenstein, like I just was like, oh, beautiful, beautiful basketball. Like he just makes simple plays. He makes fundamentally sound plays. And it's just great to see. He's a smart player. So when the Knicks have a bench like this, also, that when we talk about their ceiling, that gets you excited too, because the last time Knicks had a really good season, that 2021 season, their bench unit was phenomenal, maybe the best in the NBA. It feels like the Knicks are getting to that area again. I'm not going to say they're going to be that good, particularly offensively, but just in terms of overall effort, defense, hustle, and some scoring ability, their bench is a weapon now, and that's and they just, I mean, they detonated on the Hawks in this game. I mean, they really hurt them. Start that fourth quarter, in the second quarter as well.